Frank Stanishi of Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. It's also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me on the program, Aaron William Freeland.
How are you today, Frank?
I decided to do nothing before your name this time, just for a change. Usually I make some smart ass comment, but not this time. Okay, we'll tell our viewers we'll be having Trevor Harris on. Trevor will come on around, we're hoping, around 6:15. Otherwise, the rest of the show is just going to be the way we do it. It's going to be normal. So let's start with the Canadian Football League. No, wait, hang on a second. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing pretty well, Frank. How are you?
I heard a rumor about you.
Oh? What have you heard?
I got to tell you, though. I said, BS, not true. Somebody told me there was a rumor going around that you were a nice guy.
I'm not sure how rumors like that get started. Quite frankly, I'm offended.
Frankly, I was surprised. Frankly, Charlotte, I don't give a damn. No, that's an actual line from a movie. All right. All kidding aside, of course, you're a nice guy. You balance us out. I'm on the other side of the equation. Okay, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Jay Dearborn, preparing for his Olympic debut in bobsleigh, Aaron.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. It's nice to see athletes branching out. While he was sidelined this year, he actually started training with Bobsleigh Canada and won a seat on Canada's national team for the 2022 Winter Olympics. He returned to the Riders this year. Some of the guys were impressed. Some of his teammates were shocked. But he started in 2019 following his release from the Riders due to a training camp injury. It sort of rolled from there.
So let's go to hockey. Apparently, the Maple Leafs power play is thriving despite an apparent flaw. And what would be the flaw? The 5-on-5 or something to do with the power play?
Well, I mean, that all really depends on who you ask. There's some people that say that the problem is the person who's in the bumper. There's some people that say there's a problem with the person who's at the one-timer spot. There's some other people that say that there's a flaw with the person who's on the other point, but it's not that
they're leading the league on power play percentage.
I know. Like, I don't blame Dylan for writing what he did. He's known to be contrarian, and he and I have gone back and forth on this on Twitter.
I think there's another
about
word
his perception
for what
that there's a flaw, but
I think there's another word for what he is.
Oh,
just never happy. Oh, do you think I was going to say something rude like stupid? No,
I was thinking more creatures that live under bridges, but he's not always like that.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, I've been known to criticize the Maple Leafs, but I try to wait till they do something wrong. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, the Leafs are human. It's an organization full of human beings. If you wait long enough, they'll do something wrong. But to pick on them for something that they're doing better tane anybody else in the league, no, doesn't fly with me.
The contention in the article is that the one glaring flaw is that Marner isn't as much of a shooting threat as he possibly could be. Oh, God.
And didn't he score 2 goals on the power play recently?
I mean, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah.
I'll say it for you. Again, the principle kicks in. Howard Simpson. No, it just doesn't. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense. If you want to talk about flaw with the Maple Leafs, it's the 5-on-5 that's been flaw.
Oh, they've had some serious issues. Yeah.
Right. So that's been a problem. The 5-on-5. It's not the power play. But the whole key to the regular season is it's a process, right? And what we saw, and I guess we should continue what happened. How did you like the lines in a blender?
I actually thought it was a really good experiment. I thought a lot of it actually worked really well. Bunting on the first line with Matthews was very nice. letting Nylander run show on the third line was nice. It's kind of like the opportunity they gave to Zach Hyman before they lost him to Edmonton a couple seasons back, and letting him, take over on the third line for a while. It's a good opportunity for players to stretch their legs a little bit and potentially elevate the play of their line mates. So
and they did it for the reason that I was telling you, rolling 4 lines, but not rolling 4 lines with all the forwards, but rolling 4 lines, inject Austin Matthews an extra shift here, Nylander an extra shift here, Marner an extra shift there. And that's what they're trying to get used to. And that is to create a situation where, and I think other teams do it too, especially Tampa, where if you want to key in on their star players, it's almost impossible because their star players move around the lineup, if you will. Right. And that's what you have to do. You have to figure out ways to give your players' talent a chance to show their talent. Right. If it's too robotic, you have a problem. So I'm more I can't agree more with what Keith is doing. It's a great idea. Get the players used to playing playoff hockey, and that's what playoff hockey is going to be. You can't go with 3 lines. You can't go with 2 lines. You got to go with 4 lines. So you got to figure out, though, as well, something that didn't happen early in the career for the Austin Matthewses and the Marners. They didn't get their extra shift that they needed in the playoffs.
Well, the good thing is here, when you treat your star players like plug and plays, the more that their teammates get used to playing with them in different positions at different times, the more adaptable the team becomes.
Absolutely. So. Gotta love them. Speaking of loving them, because someone asked to, the Montreal Canadiens. Stahl and Julien could see hopes of NHL return boosted by Olympic performances.
So, 2 former Canadians, Eric Stahl and Claude Julien, are both going to be with the Canadian Olympic team because they were released from their jobs or not re-signed by their respective teams. They technically aren't part of the NHL players group that aren't allowed to play at the Olympics. So this is a perfect opportunity for them to sort of show that there's still a little bit of gas left in the tank and that they've still got it. So
and the people who are running the Olympic team have faith in them and say, these guys are a good option. Let's see how good they are, though.
Exactly. And the fact that they are now being included on that team speaks volumes.
Now, I assume they're going to, I haven't, I feel like I've been a little bit negligent. I haven't seen the list of players, how many there are. Yes, I have. And now I'm trying to remember in my head, how many did I see? Yeah, they have extra players. They're bringing in, I'm closing my eyes so I can see what I remember. I think they brought in extra players. Not all the players that you see on the list are going to play in the Olympics. So there is a moment in time when each of these players, Aaron, are going to have to prove themselves that they still have it. Guys like Stahl.
Exactly. And it's a question of making sure that they do shine when they have the opportunity. So here's to all the best for them. I'm really hoping that they can pull it out. At least show decently.
They better. This is the way you wanted it, bud.
This is 110% exactly the way that I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be amateur athletes, and it's going to be fun.
They're not amateur, but they're just disposable professionals.
Well, the inclusion of Josh Ho-Sang is a nice
NHL
touch
players,
as well.
sorry.
I think he's due. So
well, is he the real deal? We'll find out at the Olympics. We'll find out because now it'll be a little harder to play under that kind of scrutiny, right? So if he can keep up with the talent that he'll be up against in the Olympics, bear in mind that many of the great hockey players at the other countries are also not going to the Olympics. In fact, irony of ironies, many of the players on the Canadian team are from the KHL. Irony of ironies, right? So the KHL is providing a lot of players.
Well, the good news on that is they're close, and there's fewer travel restrictions between Russia and China in the first place. So
yeah, absolutely. And they're already in the communist frame of mind.
Exactly. Now, the unfortunate thing is there are actually already 5 members of Canada's Olympic team in COVID-19 protocols in
I
Beijing.
know.
So it's
Already.
uh,
Oh my goodness. Okay, Shvechnikov scores shootout winner for Carolina. They beat Ottawa 3-2, sorry.
yeah, so this was not entirely unexpected. Ottawa played a fantastic game. Don't get me wrong. It's just unfortunate that they were unable to pull it out. Um, so, I mean, Freddie Anderson played fantastic. You kind of got to wonder when he's going to start to play for Carolina the way he played for the Leafs. But then I have to keep reminding myself 2 completely different teams with 2 completely different focuses.
And 2 completely different health conditions.
This is entirely true as well.
Don't forget that too, right? In fairness to him. This is, well, there'll be a lot of Leaf fans going, it ain't the playoffs yet. Wait till the playoffs. Wait till game 6 or game 7. I know what they're thinking. What they're thinking. They're going. They're just waiting. I wish them all the luck in the world. But of course, we survive as long as the Leafs survive. So let's hope they don't run into the Leafs. And if they do, they run away. Also, Sabres' Aaron Dell was suspended for 3 games. New player, no record. 3 games is fairly serious under normal circumstances, unless your name is Jason Spezza.
Well, yeah, and again, it's been open for debate ever since that knee-on-knee hit for Spezza in his 6 games. But, in light of the fact that it was a blatant elbow thrown at Drake Batherson's head, that is not something that you're allowed to do. If Aaron Dell wants to play that way, then by all means, I think if he's outside of the blue paint, it's open season, bud. You've done this to yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be open season for him whenever he plays Ottawa.
Yeah. Oh, guaranteed.
Right.
But here's the thing. I don't think suspending him is really a punishment for Buffalo. If you really want to punish Buffalo, they should have to play him.
You're terrible. You're terrible. No, they should make him play with other goal stick. Suspend him and then this guy, we talked about him having. I mentioned to you last time that he had a history of this. I read that there was a history, and then later I saw. I don't know whether it was TSN or Sportsnet, but they played the greatest hits of Aaron Dell and his, let's just say, dirty style of play, and he has a fair. Like there were about 6 different occasions that they had on video of him doing stuff that. The fact that nobody's tried to take his head off already, and folks, please don't get. I'm not suggesting that they do that. It's a term of endearment, and by a term of endearment, I mean, to love the idea to get even is what I'm getting at. I'm surprised. It's just because hockey is well. Look, they allow fighting in hockey. Aaron, you and I both know that in hockey there is frontier justice.
There is. It's not nearly as prevalent these days as it used to be, but there are occasions when individuals will take the law into their own hands if the referees aren't going to step in and do it. So,
and normally because you can't sort of initiate with someone who doesn't want to be a participant, so what you do is you offer an opportunity to gladly take part in a little frontier justice. That's what it's come down to anyway.
Whether or not you actually get taken up on that.
That's the question.
Yep.
A little bit about the Jets. Not playing well. The Calgary Flames fire 62 shots on goal. The Blue Jackets lose 6-0. Woo.
Yeah, that was a bit of a butt kick in there by the Flames. And this is following on the heels of their 7-1 defeat of the St. Louis Blues. So it was good to see them actually put a couple of games together like that. Unfortunately, they dropped the next game to the Blues in the rubber match 5-1. So it is what it is. But I'm glad to see that Calgary's at least getting some of the scoring support.
Yeah, and with the Edmonton Oilers, Evander Kane rips Canadian radio host, former Maple Leaf, for commenting about his daughter. that was the most disgusting display of radio broadcasting that I have ever heard.
Yeah, it was
Disgusting.
one of those things. You know, it's he's been caught doing this sort of thing before, and you know
Disgusting.
the 3 letter network is going to continue to pay out line for him to do this to
He should
himself.
be
And
suspended for doing that.
I mean, you know, I'm not going to say whether or not he should or shouldn't. I know I have my opinion on the
Oh,
matter.
I
I
know
think
he
it was out of
shouldn't.
bounds. Hmm?
Well, I know what he shouldn't, because the last thing that TSN should be doing is promoting attacking players' children. That's just terrible. Well, we'll continue this a little later, because if I'm not mistaken, he's getting his camera ready so he looks pretty. That's Trevor Harris getting ready as promised. He changed. Are you using your phone, Trevor, or are you using your
Yeah,
computer? That's
I
cool.
just I just walked in the door from training some kids actually.
Yeah, I know you were saying, and I really appreciate you doing this a few minutes out of your time, and it's a great time to have this conversation, because your best buddy just wrote an article, or made a comment for article, and that, of course, I'm talking about Zach Caleros, who was talking about the 1-year contract, maybe the best way to go for players. Your comment on that?
Yeah, he's absolutely right. What incentive do CFL players have to sign more than a 1-year deal? There's no money owed to you in terms of as soon if you get a signing bonus, the team owes you nothing, and your contract, your salary is guaranteed for the year after game 9 if you're in your 6th year. And then that offseason, if you've outperformed your contract, uh, you sure as heck ain't going to get a raise. And if you've underperformed your contract, they're going to release you. And so you're at the mercy of the team. So if there was any sort of maybe percentage guaranteed, then I think players would be more apt to sign longer term deals. And let's be honest, in the CFL, you're not setting yourself up for life. It's year to year. You're paying the bills with your contract for the most part. I've been fortunate to be in the small minority where I've been able to get ahead a little bit, but I'm talking the vast majority of us, you know, in the CFL, they're not getting rich, you know, playing in the CFL. So if there was an incentive where there was a guaranteed portion of the contract, I think we could start making some headway. But I know that's tough on the league side as well. So for now, it is what it is, as they say.
Yeah, reality is what reality is. One of the biggest things that fans want more, as you know, I hang out with a lot of fans, so I get a chance to hear them and listen to what they say. And one of the biggest things that fans lament, is that Trevor Harris can't be in Ottawa for 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years, and it's difficult. Also for the players, right? There's nothing you'd like more than your beautiful family to have a place that they could anchor in for a while. So it's not a very friendly business, is it?
No, I mean pro football. Everybody, the what's the saying? It says everybody loves football, but football loves nobody, and that's just the way it is. And if you're not performing to the standards of your contract, then the team's going to let you go with no penalty, and that's kind of where we're at. And it stinks, but it you wish that you could, because I think being able to sign 5, 6, 7 year deals would be awesome for players, but they don't want to bind themselves to a certain contract where they could possibly the NFL window is back in for the contracts, which is nice for the players that they can go do those tryouts, but it's in the best interest of the player to sign short-term deals. That way, if you outperform your contract, you get a new chance to make a little bit more bread.
It's less about if, I think it's about when.
Yeah.
Right? Because most players
Touché.
get better. Most players get better, don't they? Because, especially the American players who come to the league that they don't know much about. And once they start grasping what the game's about, it's only natural that they would get better. And it's also natural that they would be disappointed, in the circumstance that they find themselves in, because they're stuck, I think. And please correct me if I'm wrong. They're stuck between being in a pro league and a place where they want to play.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of verbalizing it. But I know that everybody that comes up to the CFL, they love Canada. They love the brand of football. I know there's been a big debate of should they go to 4 downs, and I mean I think the guys love the brand of football. They love the new special teams rules. People laugh at the goalpost in front of the end zones, but I'm like, hey, if you're at the 35-yard line and you kick from the 42-yard line, should that be a 52-yard field goal or a 42-yard field goal? If you're kicking it
Yeah.
from the 42, and they're like, oh, it should be a 42-yard field goal. I'm like, then the field goal post at the front of the end zone makes more sense. Like a lot of things about the CFL game that makes a lot more sense than the NFL. A lot of fans want to see the punt returns, and so we have the 5-yard halo. The onside punts. Those sorts of rules are fun. It makes the game more fun. And there's debate on the rouge, being, awarded a single point for missing a field goal, those sorts of things. But the brand of football is amazing. And I've come to love it myself and love a lot of the rules of the CFL as opposed to 11-man football as well.
And you've had a chance to move around a little bit. I had a chance to talk to the BC management, the coach and the GM, and I actually brought your name up and asked if they had any interest in you. They made it clear that they do have interest in you and anybody really. They're looking for the best quarterback for their team. From your perspective, what are you looking for now that we've spoken for a 1-year contract? Long term doesn't sound like it's out there. So really, it's just a matter of the kind of team that you go to. Maybe is the priority.
I feel like I'm still a top tier quarterback in this league, and I think the numbers could back it up if you look at them. But last year was a bit of a whirlwind for me, individually, and what had happened. But I still know that I'm a productive quarterback in this league, and I can do a lot of great things. And I want an opportunity to compete, and really that's what I want. Is I want an opportunity to compete and let the best man win. And if that's if that's not me, I'll be a pro about it, and I can be the best support system that I can be. And my knowledge of the game and the things that I've learned, I can be there for that. But I still feel like I'm a top tier quarterback in this league, and that's really all I'd like is an opportunity to compete, and that's that, because that's what I am. I'm a competitor, and I really fully believe that I'm capable of taking a team to a Grey Cup. But we all are. As starters, it's about having a great team around us and putting ourselves in a good situation. But yeah, really, that's all I'm looking for is a good opportunity to be a part of a great organization and be able to compete, and that's really all you can ask for.
Yeah, and really, this is not about any kind. I'm not trying to solicit any bitterness or anger or frustration. I'm just making this point because it's just a fact. You would still be with Montreal if you didn't have a bonus waiting for you, and that's one of the issues that not you, but most players. That's a lot of players. They lose out on a bonus not because I don't even want to use the term deserve it, but played for it, and they don't get it. It's really an unforgiving. It really is football in the Canadian Football League. Its biggest imperfection is that it has to mind its dollars, and that's got to be really frustrating. So on that term, I thank you for being a great part of the Canadian Football League, Trevor, and you are a tier 1 quarterback. There's no doubt about that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's that's one of those things that when you sign a contract, more often than not, the money that the team is paying you is based off of what you've done in the past. And yeah, that was the contract I'd signed was the things I've done in the past, and unfortunately, it was it came down to that bonus, and the year we're coming off of, and so you wrote $0 of that bonus, and that's tough, but at the same time, it's fair. I knew what I was signing up for, so I'm not going to sit here and cry over spilt milk. I knew what I signed up for, and I'm thankful, and God's been good to me. So yeah, but I'm still speaking with Montreal, and
That's what I was getting at. There's nothing personal,
yeah,
and
there's things that I loved Montreal. I loved Kahari Jones, the locker room, the guys there. It was amazing, and I loved the style of offense that we played there, and shoot, you never know what could happen. There's a few teams that we're speaking with. My agent just shot me a text a little bit ago. I'm going to get back to him here soon. And yeah, we're kind of just discussing and kind of making our rounds, and we'll see what happens.
I could see actually, BC would be a nice fit for you, and sort of live the life that you lived going to Ottawa, if you understand what I'm saying, and going to BC, doing the opposite, being the veteran that takes over the team to help set up a young man into becoming a great quarterback like you had a chance to in Montreal. In Ottawa.
Yeah, anything's possible. I know that they said that they see Nathan going into the season as the number one guy there. Yeah, you never know how things can work out. I have an enormous amount of respect for Rick Campbell and Jordan Maksimic, who I got to play for in Edmonton, and a couple of the guys there that I've played with, and Dominic Rhymes. I tried to recruit Lucky Whitehead, and I've been a part of some great teams with some of those guys, and so. Yeah, you'll never know what could happen, but like I said, I'm thankful that I've gotten to play in such a great league in a great country, and and it's just crazy that it's been this long. I came up to this league thinking could just hopefully just play out one contract and get enough experience to become a great coach, and here I am, 11 years later in the CFL, and I couldn't love the game anymore.
Well, 10 years ago, I was in the basement of Shoeless Joe's having something to eat, and there were two young quarterbacks, Zach Claros and Trevor Harris. And I always said that I had faith in you making it, and you actually did it very quickly. You both did. We don't see much of that right now. I'm not asking you to criticize other quarterbacks. How hard is it to grasp the Canadian game? Because you referred to yourself as a tier one that I don't think anybody would argue with. But I'm wondering where the tier 2 and tier 3 quarterbacks are, the ones that are ready like you were, if you remember when you were in Toronto playing behind Ricky Ray. Both you and Zach Claros were playing right behind Ricky Ray. As a fan and as someone who talks to a lot of fans, we don't see – why is it doesn't seem like we have some really good quarterbacks waiting in the wings to compete with you, no offense?
Well, first, I think there'd be quite a few people that would argue with you that I'm a tier 1 quarterback. But I appreciate that, Frank. You're in my corner, and I do appreciate that. But you'll be one of the guys that could say I told you so at the end of the year. I promise you.
I know.
But yeah, so they're there, and a lot of coaches, believe in those guys early. You're seeing, people get opportunities that haven't really gotten a chance to show they're a starter, and those are the guys that are getting an opportunity to flourish this year. The Nathan Rourke's, and it'd be exciting to see him, and even Vernon to a degree that he had a good year in 19, and last year he was a little up and down, and this year he can have an opportunity to really solidify himself as a tier 1 starter. And you've got Jake Mayer, who signed back to be behind Bo, and Nick Arbuckle, who hasn't really got a chance. He hasn't really proven himself as a guy yet, but he's got an opportunity to this year as Edmonton has given him the reins. And Zach is a tier 1 guy. Bo has been a tier 1 guy for a long time, and Mike had just retired. And Dane Evans, a guy that has went to 2 Grey Cups now, and with 2 great teams. And Hamilton hasn't got it done in the Grey Cup, but has proven himself quite a bit. And then Masoli, who knows where he'll go. You can probably dot the I's and cross the T's and figure out where he'll be, but it'll be
where you don't go. Where you don't go. He'll be going where you don't go, because it's you two. Like they're you're both tier 1. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's at the root of here is that there aren't that many quarterbacks that teams can hand the ball and put under center that have the kind of experience that you and a Mazzoli have. And now with Riley retiring, there's not that much experience, which was the point I was trying to make. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do want to make sure that we let you go because I know you're busy. Let's talk about the NFL. What do you think?
Man, I'll tell you, if you're a football fan and you didn't enjoy the divisional round, I can't help you. I mean, we had 3 games that came down to a game-winning field goal, and then the only game that didn't was maybe the best football game I've ever watched in my life. And that Buffalo-Kansas City game was unbelievable. And then you had the other 3 games that were, literally a kick came down to it. And I tell people all the time, like, grown men fight and bleed and battle for 60 minutes, and then a kicker goes out there with a single-bar face mask and decides the game. That's kind of how those games were. Those were tremendous football games, and wow, the NFL is in such a great place right now with all the amazing young quarterbacks, especially in the AFC, is loaded with young talent at the quarterback position, and you couldn't ask for anything better. And And I don't know that anybody had this matchup going into the NFC Championship, but boy, oh boy, this is going to be some fun football this weekend. And I'm a lifelong Bengals fan, so I'm a
yeah, that's right.
partial to saying this was awesome, an awesome playoff. So I'm
The only
excited.
no-name quarterback. The only no-name quarterback in the
Joseph
final.
Jackpot Joey.
Barrel. Yeah, no, you know what? You're a good person to talk to about this, because many of the fans speak to me about the Canadian Football League, and we've always talked about how much better it is because of the offense, because of the quarterbacks. In the time that you've been here in Canada, when you watch the NFL, has there been a distinct change where offense has become far more important since you came up here? In other words, in the past 10 years, the NFL game has changed and almost is replicating what the Canadian Football League, as you understand it, is always supposed to have been.
You talking how it's become an offensive game?
Yeah, very offensive.
I would actually argue that the CFL has become a defensive game. And
you're making my point in reverse. Go ahead.
What's that?
You're making my point in reverse, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, the CFL has become like low-scoring games, and it's about not turning the ball over. And you're seeing a lot of lower scoring games, and I think that's why you're hearing a lot of the chatter for rule change, and that's what is frustrating a lot of fans is they want to see more points scored. And the problem is we have 2 downs to get a first down. If we come up empty on first down, it's essentially 3rd and long down here, and those are tough to convert, especially when you go up in the CFL and you're getting 3 down fronts and they're dropping 9 and mixing up zone coverages and making you come underneath. And then on top of that, the West Coast system is. You're trying to predicate coverage based on, formations and motion and be able to dictate coverage through those things. And you're not able to do that because they're just, rushing 3 and playing, double cut 9 and hold cut 9 and making you check the ball down underneath and taking away deep stuff. And so it just becomes one of those games where even if you get a couple first downs and then you punt a ball and then you pin them deep and then, they punt it back and, it's a field position game. And so, yeah, there's got to be something we can do as a league to try and spice that up and, maybe incentivize a little bit more man coverage or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that is something that I've been promoting, because basically where you hope that a quarterback in the offense is going to improve field position, what it is now is with those single bar helmet guys, you're depending on them to change field position, right? And in the Canadian Football League right now, that's how it happens. You don't get much chance for that. Yeah, that's something I agree with. Well, we've had our 15 minutes. I said 15 minutes, and I know you're really busy. Do you have a prediction for who wins this weekend?
Oh man, if I'm betting with my head and not my heart, my head tells me Kansas City, my heart tells me Cincinnati in the AFC, and for some reason, just something feels destiny like for Matt Stafford right now, doesn't it?
LA.
I don't know about you guys, but something just feels.
No, I agree.
This is Matt Stafford's time to prove something, and so I guess that kind of gives away my pick in the NFC. Is I think I'll pick the Rams, and as much as I want to pick the Bengals, I just don't know that you can go against Kansas City's offense. And but shoot, man, and Jackpot Joey, man, maybe he'll come to play, and I'm really hoping for the Bengals. So I'll pick the Bengals, but it's tough for me to go on record with that.
Well, I hope you got 15 minutes next week so I can rake you over the coals over your decision. Actually, mine's the same. My head and heart is in Kansas City, and I think LA is the team of destiny, like you're saying. I think it's them too. Aaron, while he's on the air, you want to give your choices?
No, you know what? Honestly, yeah, I'm looking at KC and LA myself. Those are just...
Oh boy, are we all going to look dumb?
Well, hey, you know what? If it happens, it happens. I'm wrong a lot, and I'm not afraid to be wrong. So that's perfect.
Trevor, it really was a pleasure. And if you got time next week, we'll make fun of our picks next week. Thank you for doing this.
All right, appreciate it, guys. See you, Aaron. See you, Frank.
See you later. Bye.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, okay, that's no good. Nobody gets to razz anybody because we all agree. That's just terrible. Okay, where were we, Aaron? We were, I believe, I'm looking here. We were talking about Edmonton and Evander Kane, McDavid shootout winner with the Oilers.
Yeah. So, as everybody knows, the NHL has decided not to levy any additional suspensions or punishments against Evander Kane for taking a flight uncleared to Vancouver. So he has been signed by the Edmonton Oilers to a 1-year deal. It works out to about $2.1 million against the cap prorated, which is good, at least as far as he's concerned. Now, McDavid actually got the shootout winner as the Oilers beat the Predators as well for their 3rd straight victory. So after a long dry spell, the Oilers are finally starting to roll here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It means things are going to start to heat up in the Western Conference.
I tell you, Aaron, Kane is an amazing addition to that team. He brings a little bite too, which I think Edmonton lacks.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I'd be interested to see how well he adjusts to his new teammates and how well his new teammates adjust to him. We know that there have potentially been issues in the past about certain facets of his behavior in and out of the locker room. Well, hopefully that won't be too much of a distraction for Edmonton down the stretch.
Absolutely. The Vancouver Canucks, Miller scores 3 goals as Canucks snap winless streak. Good for them. 5-1 victory over the Jets, whom we talked about not winning.
Yeah, no, I got to say, Bruce can finally smile again. It's been a rough little time for the Canucks there with a 3-game winless skid. But what a way to snap out of it, too. I think that's actually the first time that a Canuck has had a hat trick in Winnipeg since Pavel Bure did it in the mid-90s. So it's been a while.
Been a week. It's been a little bit of time, just a little bit. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so Vancouver is looking good. Right now we've got, I think it's looking good for Edmonton, and Calgary has really, 6-0 shutout over Columbus. They look good for the playoffs, and I'm really happy about this because I really didn't want to see Toronto be the only team in the playoffs. Montreal and Ottawa are so deep in the hole; they're not making the playoffs. They're gone. Vancouver there's a possibility. They've got enough games left that they could do it if they go on a run, but it's going to need to be a real heavy-duty run. But Calgary and Edmonton mathematically are in the mix right now, and games in hand offer them an opportunity to maybe have control of making the playoffs in their own hands, which is, if you're a team and if you're an organization, that's what you want the most, more than anything. Have a say in making it.
And they're both not that far out of it. Vancouver's sitting right at 500. Edmonton's a little further ahead at 564 when it comes to points percentage, but they're also only 2 or 3 points back of a wild card spot. So it's not as far out of reach as some would have you believe. So the future is looking, if not necessarily rosy, then at least not as grim for the Canadian teams when it comes to the playoffs.
5 members of the Canadian Olympic team, you mentioned already that they're in protocols already. It happens, right?
Yeah. Now, they're not actually mentioning the names of the individuals in protocols right now because they don't want to tip their hand.
Yeah, that's fine. Canada's captain, Christine Sinclair, that, of course, is the women's soccer team. She gets a contract extension from the Portland Thorns, her team.
Yeah, so she's actually signed a contract extension with Portland through 2022 with an option for the 2023 National Women's Soccer League season. Now, she's 38. She'll be 40 by the time this ends. She says she feels healthy. She feels good. And especially with the turnaround for the Olympics to the 2023 World Cup qualifications this summer, she's told Bev Priestman that obviously she's going to take it year by year, but she's willing to come back and play for Canada again. So that's a positive sign too.
They didn't have Davis, but they had David, and they won 2-0. Did you see that goal by Jonathan David?
That was just a beautiful bloop. Fantastic.
Holy mackerel. How he wasn't offside and how he didn't lose any pace after making his first touch.
No, this Canadian men's team is something special. I don't think I've seen anything this magnificent in decades. And
It's 86.
They're closing in on it. They're not there yet, but it's within reach. So,
yeah, no, and what I said about hockey teams wanting to make the playoffs in the case of Canada, making the World Cup is in their hands. This victory ensures that it's in their hands, and they've got 2 important games that if they can repeat what they did in the first, I'll call it the first round with Mexico and the U.S., they could end up being first, which I don't know. Is there any importance to finishing first in the qualification round?
Well, I know that the top 3 get in, and then there's a play down for the 4th position. But other than that, it's at that point it gets to, I'm not sure how FIFA does their qualification tables after you get past a certain point. I just know that they have to get through the 8 that they're currently in right now, and that's all I'm really hoping for at this point. And it's quick turnaround too, because they're playing on Sunday against Team USA and then Wednesday against Mexico, so it's bang bang really quick.
You know, I thought about the question I asked without thinking of the answer before I asked it. So now I thought of the answer, and the answer I give to this if I was asked, so I'll pretend I asked myself that question. It really doesn't matter, because finishing first doesn't give any extra momentum to the other teams, because then they're all put in the teams that make the World Cup. They don't, it's not like in hockey where you play in your division and then play another team in another division. These teams are all going to, the 4 teams that make it are going to be spread throughout the World Cup, groups, right? That's what's going to happen. So it really, finishing first is an opportunity to have a little chest thumping, right? Making yourself proud of what you've done. And I'm really pleased with the way Canada's been playing. To me, it's, and I don't want to make it into a political thing, but political in the sense of Canada's soccer team reflects, and this is a bit of a news show as well. So, and I'll get your opinion. It's great because it shows how important and how productive immigration can be. Like, these are young men who otherwise weren't born in Canada, but they are Canadian as anybody is. But you see the benefit that they create for the soccer team and for Canada, the contribution they make. That's what Canadians who weren't born here, who wanted to be Canadians and came here, this is the kind of contribution that other Canadians represented by them make as a contribution. So to you people who are racist and don't like immigrants and don't like people who are different, there you go. There's your proof. Canada's the proof. The soccer team's the proof.
No, and some people will claim, oh, they're not real Canadians. Hey, that's the only way they get to play for this team is if they're Canadian citizens. So like it or lump it, buddy, we got a national team that's going places, and I'm happy for that.
I am so glad you said that, because up until now, there were real Canadians who chose to play for countries that they're really not from. We've seen that. That's changed. And, we're not only not losing our great players to other countries like England, for example, where great players who were born in Canada made the choice of playing for England rather than playing for Canada. We're not seeing that either. So soccer is a sport that immigration, where you're born really doesn't matter. What matters is where you declare you're from. And you know what? That's what these players are declaring. They're declaring to be Canadians, and I'm saying thank you. In my long-winded, and this whole point was to say thank you for these guys deciding to be Canadians and represent our country, and we're better for it, is my point.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
Ben Roethlisberger retired.
Yeah, after 18 years, he's finally hanging them up. Good for him. It's been a long one, not without its ups and downs, not without its purported scandals. It's been a career-like career. So, congratulations to him. I know that he didn't last as long as Brady. That's fine. He represented Pittsburgh well, did the best that he could. So, hey, after losing 42-21 to the Kansas City Chiefs during the wild card weekend, you kind of figured the writing was on the wall at that point.
Absolutely, you did. And here's oh boy. Well, you knew this was going to happen, right? That there were going to be some fans that go to stadiums that provide their vaccine card, and it's not real.
It was only a matter of time. I mean, if you can buy a printer at Walmart for $50 and start knocking these things off. I don't know why you're sending money to China to do it. Cottage growing industry. But yeah, there's a Western New York couple who's accused of using fake COVID-19 vaccine cards to attend the Bills playoff win over the New England Patriots. That would be Michael Knabb and Amber Knabb of West Seneca, who were charged with 1 count each of criminal possession of a forged instrument in the 2nd degree. Well done, guys. Your desire to see a football game during a pandemic has now resulted in you facing criminal charges. Well done.
Oh, I got to say this. And getting nabbed.
Oh. Terrible, Frank. Terrible.
I was trying to say that as soon as you said their names. In other news, the NBA and of course the Toronto Raptors, they're hanging in there, making the playoffs. They're doing enough. The question is, some media are suggesting that they need a superstar. Do they need a superstar, Aaron, by your estimation?
As far as I'm concerned, no. I would rather have, for lack of a better term, a bunch of lunch bucket players who put on their boots every day and get the work done. I mean, as it currently stands, they're currently sitting in ninth in their conference, which
Eight-ish.
is
They're kind of eight-ish, but yeah.
9-8ish. They're at 500 right now. Put it that way. I'd like to see them, obviously, as everybody would. I'm sure a little bit over that to make it into the playoffs, but that's currently where we sit, and it's not out of reach.
No, not
we're
at
slowly
all.
getting players back.
Yes.
And once the core is healthy again, we'll be good to go.
Well, when you get to use your starting, when you get to use your starting players, that's always a good sign, right? And then not only that, this team is one that's been put together with some different faces and some different players, from the beginning of this season, because there was a lot of change going into this season. And then they ran into, like you said, the COVID thing and not even having enough players to actually put together a team. And now they're all coming back, with COVID. Omicron is subsiding a little bit and the players are all coming back. It's almost like training camp. So I'd like to think if you're a Raptors fan, this is the worst the team's going to play. They're only going to get better. And they've had more issues to deal with than many of the other teams in the NBA, especially the teams that are fighting for a playoff spot beside them. So I look for good things from the Toronto Raptors down the stretch.
Definitely. And, another thing to look out for as well, Coach Nick Nurse will be appearing in an episode of Murdoch Mysteries on CBC as well. So that's something else to keep an eye out for you Raptors fans out there.
He fancies himself he's a musician, an actor.
Wow. I mean, we know he's a bit of a ham. I don't know if he's necessarily an actor.
Yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I wonder who he's going to play. I wonder if he'll play a coach of the Raptors. No, just kidding. All right. Yeah, well, good luck with that. Look forward to seeing it. I'm sure he'll be judged for how well he didn't do. But, I think he'll get a kind word from everybody.
It'll be the Toronto Huskies.
In politics, the NDP's Jagmeet Singh denounces trucker convoy, one that his brother-in-law donated a lot of cash to. Where's that at now?
They've apparently started to pull into Ottawa. So various streets have been blocked at this point by the convoy. It's only 551 vehicles, which is a significant difference from the 50,000 that organizers were saying would be descending on Ottawa, along with their 1.4 million protesters. So, but as it stands, Jagmeet Singh has condemned the convoy of truckers and others traveling to Ottawa to protest the federal rule requiring all cross-border drivers be vaccinated. They have his brother, Jadveer Singh Dhaliwal, has apparently contributed $13,000 to the group behind the demonstration. Now, what's interesting is the person who's running the fundraising effort for this is a lady by the name of Tamara Lee Litch, who is actually one of the board of directors for the Maverick Party, formerly known as the Wexit Party. This is a separatist party out of Alberta. One of the convoy leaders on the ground and in the convoy is a gentleman by the name of Patrick King, who is known to law enforcement because of his association with the Yellow Vests, which are a Western chauvinist and anti-immigrant group. So there are many layers to what's going on here. Not only do we have anti-vax and anti-mask groups folded in with this, but we now also have groups that are known to CSIS and Canadian intelligence services for their seditionist and treasonous activities. So, there's all of that's going on with this whole sandwich as well.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of nudge and a lot of wink, right?
Yeah,
not in a wink. There's a lot of nodding and a lot of winking. Where it's even in the U.S. where they had the people talking about they're not anti-vaxxers, they're anti-mandate people who happen to be anti-vax. No, you know what I'm saying. They're all folded into each other. You're 100% right. The University of Alberta did a study, and that study revealed the fact that farmers are skeptical about wind turbines and some other things, Aaron.
Well, and it all has to do with the fact that for a lot of these people who are wanting to put wind power onto farms, they're trying to get the farmers to sign NDAs and long-term deals that give them access to the land for decades, which is obviously, as a farmer, not necessarily something that you want. But there is slowly becoming increased acceptance about this sort of thing because they're working around, the disbelief of some of the farmers about whether or not climate change is man-induced or not. But
Wow.
I mean, having a wind farm on your property is not nearly as damaging to the property as having an oil well, which is something else that these farmers will need to consider, especially if they're grazing cattle. Contamination of the
There you go.
groundwater by fracking.
You went and said it.
Contamination of the groundwater by fracking or oil wells, especially if there are pipeline spills or localized issues with spillage, that's mitigated because I've never heard of anybody really dying from a sunshine spill or a wind spill. So, that's something else to
There
consider
is
as
the
well.
odd bit of oil that falls on the ground, but it's pretty much contained, I guess, if that's the case. Yeah, as a former leader of the great world power, wind turbines cause cancer.
Yeah, and apparently solar panels suck all the energy out of the soil around them as well as the sun, and don't work when it's cold.
Okay, so all right. Alabama man accused of meth-fueled attack squirrel faces new charges. He has a meth-fueled attack squirrel.
I'm sorry,
I think I've seen him on the internet. I think I've seen
I
him on the
had
internet.
to include this one, Frank. I really did. There's a man in Alabama named Mickey Polk. He was arrested in 2019 after authorities received a tip about an allegedly drugged squirrel. So when police went to arrest him, they also found body armor and meth. He had been apparently microdosing the squirrel to make sure that it was aggressive to drive dogs, cats, and people off. After his arrest, he was charged with possession of a wild animal, stolen property, and weapons possession by a felon. The squirrel was released into the wild because there was no safe way to test the squirrel for meth. But there are additional charges. Unfortunately, these are slightly more serious, on charges of chemical endangerment of a child and methamphetamine trafficking. So this absolute gem of an Alabama gentleman is soon going to be facing more charges.
Yeah, the squirrel was last seen pushing a carriage to an underpass
Filled with cans.
Absolutely. Well, Mickey Polk, you're our fool of the day. We don't have one of those, but he can be our first. Oh my God. Well, apparently Spotify, it sided with Joe Rogan and against Neil Young. And Neil Young has a bunch of music services that are using his fame in this situation to help promote them while adding his music to their app.
Well, as it currently stands, Spotify has sided with Joe Rogan and has agreed to remove Neil's music. However, Neil isn't exactly going to be hurting because SiriusXM has reactivated his Neil Young channel with them. So he's already got a new home for his music already. He's already shifted
absolutely.
so.
And they get some publicity out of the deal too.
Exactly.
Right? We're here, and so's Neil Young. Unions want Ontario to reverse hospital COVID policy that allows sick people to work. Explain, please.
Well, as it currently stands in Ontario, they are allowing sick individuals to come into work still as long as they're masked and gowned up. And unions are saying, well, these sick people should be staying at home. We know Omicron is more transmissible, even if it's less fatal. Help us. So.
Competing with Falk is actress Evangeline Lilly. She attended a DC anti-vax protest. I assume that's that one. And human rights complaint filed against BC Healthcare Authority N95 respirator ban. You got a few seconds?
So Evangeline Lilly has said that she went there because she's all for bodily autonomy and she's pro-choice. Cool. Doesn't really help the situation when you have to be vaccinated to work. Also, BC, because they're forcing people to change out of their N95s into cloth masks when entering healthcare facilities, there's been a pushback against that. So
good for them. Aaron, It was fun. Thank you, sir.
Not a problem, Frank. Thank you.
You're welcome. For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live. Aaron Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now. Have a great weekend.